Okay, so welcome back everyone. So good morning. Uh, in the previous class, we were discussing about, yeah, let me make it full screen, then we can start it. Okay, so yeah, so we were discussing about something like what is the Moore's law and how this particular law is very important, especially to predict the different parameters which are needed to design semiconductor IC. Okay, so yeah, I was discussing about something like we started our analysis or our discussion with something related to the number of transistor count. So if we see like from this particular projection, we can predict that the number of transistor in is going to be increased by double in every uh, 18 to 24 months. Okay, so these things we know. Okay, so yeah, let me admit all the students first, then we can do that. Fine. So we just discussed about how we can how the number of transistors are going to be doubled by uh, 18 months to 24 months, and this is only because the reason is if we want to embed more number of transistor on a single chip, then we need to miniaturize the transistors. And if we are miniaturizing the transistors, in that case, we have to maintain the performances as well. It is not just like we just need to shrink the sizes, but other than this, we have to consider all other things as well. Okay, so this is very important. So these things we have already discussed. Now let us talk about the second parameter is like if we see the number of transistor number of transistor with the different processors. So it was initially started from processor 4004, which is of 4-bit microprocessor. And if we see the number of transistors was around in the thousands or in the order of thousands. But if we want to increase or if we want to improve the number of functionalities, in that case, we need to embed more number of transistors. And if I am embedding more number of transistors, we can include more number of functional block inside a chip. Okay, so this is a really very important. But at the same time, like I was already discussing about these things, like if you are increasing number of transistor per unit area in a processor, in that case, definitely you can increase the number of functionalities. But certain challenges you need to face again, like there are certain challenges like power dissipation, delay, or something like heating effects, secondary effects. So these all kind of problems occurs if we are miniaturizing the transistors. And all those problems whatever I just discussed, those problems need to address before we start fabricating the chip. So uh, I will tell you how to fabricate the chip, what are the different processes, and from where we need to start. So I will discuss each and everything. Uh, so this particular thing I have already discussed, and then we can move ahead with this one. Okay. We also already discussed about the frequency, like how the frequency is going to be doubled by every 2 years. And the simple reason is, one of the simple reason is, in detail we will see what are the other factors which is responsible to increase the operating frequency of the design whatever we have made. But one of the prime concern is if we are scaling down the technology, the feature size is going to be reduced. And if the feature size means the technology node which we are considering. Okay, so this is the meaning of feature size. So like if we have the 32 nanometer technology, so the feature size here it will be 32 nanometer. Okay, so this is the feature size, and the feature size completely depends on what is the size of the transistor. Okay, so because as we are reducing the feature size, we are going for the advancement. In that case, the distance between source and drain terminal is going to be reduced. And if that is going to be reduced, the charge carrier which is starting from one terminal to move or to start so to conduct between source and drain, there should be some charge particle that need to be travel from one node to another one. And because the distance between these two are very less, in that case they will take less time, so the operation will be faster. And if operation is faster, so relatively the frequency will also be increased. Okay, so this is one of the reason. Other reasons are also there, like it is not like if we are scaling down the technology, so by the same ratio the frequency will increase. This is not true. In reality, you need to optimize certain things other than the technology node, other than the feature size, to maintain the performances. So it is not just like if we have the MOSFET of, let us assume, 180 nanometer, and if you want to double the frequency, just reduce the size by half. It's not like that, because certain secondary effects comes into the picture, and that can degrade the performances. And to improve those degraded performance due to scaling down the technologies, you need to consider certain parameter optimization, and after optimizing those parameters, you can achieve your desired frequencies. So to achieve the double frequency, it is not just like to shrink the device by half and you will get the double frequency. No, you need to optimize. So this is the only reason, like I think in the beginning of class I just told you there are the different technologies. Previously there was MOSFET technology that was used to design the ICs. Then after certain technologies, there was a limit. MOSFET cannot work below certain technology like 22 nanometer technology. Okay, so after 22 nanometer technology, you need to consider different kind of device structure. MOSFET will not work for lower than 22 nanometer technology. Okay, so you need to consider some other technologies, and those technologies are FinFET. So after including FinFET, what is the FinFET? I will tell you. Okay, so after including, introducing FinFET, you can achieve the double frequency. So the intention to say this statement is simple, like by simply miniaturizing the transistor by half is not the solution to improve the performance. Other than reducing the size of technology feature size, you need to also optimize in terms of different engineering aspects as well. Like you need to introduce something different like FinFET. Okay, might be after certain technology node, FinFET is also having some limit. FinFET may not work, and for that purpose, some other kind of technology comes into the picture, and those technologies are known as tunnel FET. Okay, so TFET comes into the picture if you want to improve the performance, especially for the RF applications. So if your objective is to design the IC for RF applications, in that case, we need to consider those devices which are suitable for high performance and the high frequency applications. Okay, radio frequency applications. So the device which we are using to design to fabricate a chip, that completely depends on your application. If your application is the low area, so you need to consider the devices which require less area to execute the same operation. If your requirement is like power, so you need to optimize the power. So these all are the factors which are responsible, and by those factors we can decide which kind of devices we need to use while fabricating the chip. Okay, so this is a really very important thing, and that need to be considered. Yes, I will later on when I will discuss about the power dissipation. I think someone asked some question related to the power in studies class. So because there was no time, so today I will try to cover again what is that power dissipation and what are the different factors that are responsible to dissipate more power if we are shrinking the devices. Okay, so I will tell you those things. So this is all about the frequency. Now yes, this is also very important. Like as I already I'm discussing, like this is not true. Like every year or with every technology node, you will get the double frequency. This is not true. You have to optimize different devices based on the requirement. Without optimizing the devices, without coming to the next kind of devices or next structure of the devices, you cannot achieve the double frequency even though you are shrinking the devices. Let me repeat it again. This is really very important. Suppose you have a MOSFET, bulk MOSFET, And let us assume for a particular technology that bulk MOSFET can operate up to, let us assume 500 megahertz, for example. And let us assume the technology node is 65 nanometer. Once if I want to increase the frequency, I need to reduce the size of those devices. Let us assume next technology node is 45 nanometer. So I have reduced the size of the devices to the 45 nanometer, but it is not necessary that operating frequency is also increased by double. Okay, so you have to optimize in other way, like whatever the semiconducting material you have used, whatever the oxide material you have used, what kind of gate metal you have used, these all need to be considered, like especially on the oxide, silicon dioxide. Might be if you want to improve the performance or if you want to increase the operating frequency, you need to change the oxide material which is sandwiched between semiconductor and the metal. Let me repeat it again. The oxide material, like see, if you see the simple structure looks like this. Let me draw it. So the simple MOS structure looks like this. Here we can have a source terminal, or let us assume this is the N plus, this is the N plus, and here we can have some SiO2, and here we can have some metal, and that acts as a gate terminal. Here we can have some source terminal, and here we can have some drain terminal. Okay, so this is the one, and this is nothing but this is the body terminal. Okay, and let us assume this is the p-type semiconducting material. Okay, so this is how we can make the devices. Okay, so this is a simple structure. So here the important thing is, like, let me change the color. This what kind of oxide material we have used in between this semiconductor and this gate material. This gate material is made of polysilicon, right? So this material can also be made of the silicon, but it is a polysilicon having the more conductivity than the normal semiconducting material. Okay, so and that polysilicon can act as a conducting material, and that can act as a gate conductor or gate layer. Okay, so here we have a semiconducting material which is the SiO2. So this SiO2, the thickness of this SiO2 play a major role. What will be the property in how this device will work? If I am just maintaining the oxide thickness, but even though if I can replace it with some other kind of semiconducting material like silicon nitride, okay, there could be other materials. So by changing this oxide material, we can change the performance of this device as well. So the device performance, that also depends on how much doping is there, what is the doping concentration over the source and drain terminal, what is this box width, like what is this box, what is the height of this one, this is also very important. Other than this, what kind of material we have used as an insulator, this is also very important. Okay, so by changing the insulating material, we can change the property, or we can change the parameters of the device performances. So the device performance is not just like to shrink every parameter, okay, but you have to change something to maintain the performances, and this is really very important. So the statement which is written in the blue box, not true anymore. What it simply means that just by simply scaling down the technology, you cannot achieve the double frequency. You have to do some engineering at the oxide level, at the gate level, at the bulk level, or at the doping side. So you have to change the doping concentration. You have to change the oxide material. You have to change the thickness of this oxide material. You have to change the property of this gate layer. So all these are the factors which are responsible to give a required or the desired frequency. Okay, and this is how we can achieve the double frequency. I think the things are clear. In case of any doubt, you can ask the question immediately. Okay, so this was all about the frequency. Now, yeah, this is the things which we have already discussed, like power dissipation. But let me take some more time to explain few things more. like because yesterday we had a very small less time, so I was not able to
Sir,
explain
hello.
properly. Yeah, please.
Sir, one doubt. Sir, do we have to always scale down the technology to get higher frequency?
No, 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 it's not true. So just like I just told you, let me go to the previous slide again. The operating frequency requirement that is decided by, like I just told you, 4 parameters, but there are certain more parameters. Like the first parameter is what is the doping concentration, and if you will change the doping concentration, the capacitive effect will change, and if capacitive effect will be changed, so the RC time constant will change, so the maximum cutoff frequency will also be changed. So CGS, like gate to source capacitance, drain to source capacitance, gate to drain capacitances, all those capacitances are depends on what is the doping and other things. So if we are changing the property of material without scaling the devices, even though we can change the operating frequency. So operating frequency depends on many things. First thing is like by scaling down the technology. So the distance between gate and source and drain terminal will be less. So the faster transition will be there. So this is one of the reason. But another reason could be like just by changing the property of different layers, whatever we have used, like source doping, drain doping, the oxide layer. So this depends on many parameters. So yes, scaling down is one of the solution, one of the way to increase the frequency. But other than this, there are some other way as well. Right? You got the answer? Bhavesh, I think you asked the question. I don't know. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fine. So, so this was all about the frequency. Now let us talk about the power dissipation. So, as I already told you, yeah, I will take 2 lectures to explain the total power dissipation or different power dissipation components in a CMOS circuit. I will take more time in the later classes. But yeah, let me brief again what are the different power dissipations and what are the different components which are responsible to have more power dissipation in the circuit. And again, I will tell you what are the different way so that we can reduce the power dissipation. Okay, so basically in CMOS circuit, there are several components of for the power dissipation. So majorly there are 2 components. The first component is the static power dissipation, and the second component is the dynamic power dissipation. Okay, so static power dissipation means simple. Just let us consider. I have just drawn here a CMOS inverter. I think let me clean this, otherwise it will not look good. So let me clean this slide first. Okay, so let me explain the things which I was saying. So because yeah, so let us consider a simple CMOS inverter. How to design this CMOS inverter, I will tell you. But for now, I'm just drawing the sketch of this CMOS inverter directly without explaining the reason why I am keeping the PMOS transistor at the top and the NMOS transistor at the bottom. Okay, the reason I will tell you later on when I will start the circuit designing part. Okay, so here we have the VDD. Here we have some ground. Here we are providing some input, and here we are getting some output. There will be some output capacitance or the load capacitance, which is associated with the next stage circuit. Like suppose I have connected this V out to some of the other circuits. So the capacitance associated with the circuit which are connected at the node V out, that will be the load capacitance for this particular circuit. So I am just writing CL over here for the simplification purpose. Okay. So if I'm talking about the power dissipation, basically, majorly there are 3 components. The first component is the leakage power dissipation. Okay, what that leakage power dissipation is? I'm assuming that whatever the transistor we have, okay, might be you all know that if we have the PMOS transistor, and so to activate or to turn on the PMOS devices, PMOSFET, we need to keep the gate terminal to the lower potential compared to the source one, so that you can turn on the devices, and vice versa for the NMOSFET. So this is the things which I'm expecting you are knowing the thing. Okay, so the simple concept is to turn on, yeah, this upper one is the PMOS. Yeah, so for the simplification, let me write it. This is the PMOS and this device is the NMOS one. Okay, so to turn on the PMOS devices, you need to apply logic 0 to the PMOS transistor gate, and vice versa for the NMOS. So the PMOS is on in case the gate terminal is connected to the ground. Okay, and NMOS will be activated if the gate terminal is connected to the logic high. In detail, I will tell you. So let us talk about the first kind of component, which is the static power dissipation. So static power dissipation comes into the picture if the input is not changing with respect to time. So if I have maintained the input to a certain logic level, either it is logic 0 or it is logic 1, in that case, if there is some power dissipation in this particular circuit, so those kind of power dissipations are known as the static power dissipation. But here, now the question will come from your side, like if I have provided, let us assume logic 1, let us assume the input is logic 1. In this case, the PMOS, I am expecting that PMOS transistor will be in the off state and NMOS transistor will be in the on state. Okay, so if one of the transistor is off and another transistor is in on state, so the equivalent circuit of this, the equivalent circuit of this CMOS circuit will look like something like this. Okay, so here we will have some VDD, here we will have some R on resistance for NMOS, and this is because the PMOS transistor is in off state, so that will be considered as an open circuited. Here we have some output. Okay, so output we will receive something like this. So I am assuming that after applying Vin is equal to 1, I am assuming that the PMOS transistor will be off and MOS transistor will be on. There is no direct path between VDD and the ground. This is the ideal case. But practically this is not true. Even though if any of the device is in off state, if the input voltage is less than the threshold voltage or the VGS is less than threshold voltage, even though if you scale down the technology, secondary effects comes into the picture, and because of those, even though the device is off, there is some flow of current through that device, and those currents are known as sub-threshold leakage current. All the different kind of current I will tell you in the details later on when I will take the power dissipation classification class. Okay, but for now, just let me explain the things so that you will be able to understand how this power dissipation comes into the picture if you are scaling down the technology. Okay, so ideally we are expecting that this PMOS transistor will be in the on state or in the open state, and the NMOS transistor will be in the closed state, or there will be some path. And I'm assuming that there is no direct path, direct current flowing between VDD and the ground. But in reality, in practical, with the scaling down the technology, there is some subthreshold current that flow between the devices, nodes of the devices, and if the current is flowing, even though the device is off, so there may be some current flow between VDD and the ground. There will be some minute current will flow, and that current is known as I sub or the subthreshold current. Okay, and if the subthreshold current is flowing, so there will be some path, direct path between VDD and the ground, and if the path is there, power dissipation will be there. So this kind of power dissipation is known as the static power dissipation. So the important thing is like, if the logic state is constant, if the logic is fixed, in that case we can call them the static power dissipation. Now let us talk about the second case, second kind of power dissipation, which is the switching power dissipation or the short circuit power dissipation. Okay, so this was the concept for the leakage power dissipation. Okay, now the second one is, let us talk about the switching one or the short circuit one. Let us talk about the, instead of switching, let us talk about the short circuit one. So the second kind of power dissipation could be the short circuit one. When the short circuit comes, ideally what we are assuming that if we have the inverter, and if I am providing the input something like this, let us assume this is the input and this is the output characteristics of an inverter, and I'm assuming that if I'm changing the input from low to high with the ramp kind of thing, if I'm changing the input, so the output behavior should be something like this. I'm assuming that if this is the circuit, the behavior of this circuit should be something like this. Below certain voltages, input voltages, it should give logic high, and after certain voltages, it should give logic low. Okay, so this kind of the behavior I'm expecting from an inverter. Okay, ideally, what I'm expecting, ideal behavior should be something like this. Once it crosses the 50% of the VDD, it should suddenly fall and it should reach to the VDD, something like that. So this is the ideal behavior, but practically something like this. So if you see here, we have certain regions like the devices up to this point we are getting perfectly high, and after this point we are getting perfectly low. But there is certain region in between, the transition is there, and I just told you it is impossible to make the zero rise time in the fall time from any of the circuit. There should be some finite rise time in the fall time, and if there is some finite rise time in the fall time, so there may the transition will take some time to change the states from logic high to logic low. So if the circuit is taking some time to make some transition from one state to another state, so in between at certain level, at certain region, the both the transistors will be in the saturation region here. Like if you see this region, I will tell you in detail. In this region, one of the transistor will be in cutoff, and one of the transistor will be in the linear region. Okay. In other region, the second one will be in the cutoff, and other one will be in the linear region. But if you see in this region, both the transistors are in saturation, and if both the transistors are in saturation, so during saturation there is some current flow through the devices, and if there is some current flow through the devices, there will be a direct path between VDD and ground. So because this time period is very short, okay, so when input is logic low, let us assume this is the input behavior, something like that. Let me draw something so that you will be able to understand properly. Let us assume this is the input one. So if we have the inverter, so output waveform will look like something this. Okay, so it will be completely, it will invert the logic. Okay, so this is the output. But if you try to draw the sorry, I just replicated it. It's not like that. If it is inverter, so it will be like this. Okay, so this is what the output will look like. Now during these stages, whatever the stage we have, like this, so if you see here, during this time period, the input is at logic 1 and the output will be as logic 0. So this stage is known as like the static one, static power dissipation. So if there is some power dissipation on those stages, these are known as static one. Similarly, during this phase, input is logic low and output will be logic high. So here the static power dissipation will be there. But if you see here, there is a transition in the input from logic high to logic low. If there is some transition in the input from logic high to logic low, and if this time period, this transition time is not 0, if there is some finite time, so there is some time at which both these devices will be in the saturation region. So if both the devices will be in the saturation region, the current profile will look like this. Initially, I am assuming that the current will be low, but during transition, there will be a sharp peak of the current, and then it will be low again, and then there will be sharp peak, something like. So during every transition, there will be a peak in the current due to both the transistors are in saturation, and because of these components, the short circuit power dissipation comes into the picture. So to avoid these things, what we can do? The simple solution is we need to make the transition as fast as possible, or rise time or the fall time should be as small as possible. And for that purpose, what we can do, rise time and the fall time completely depends on whatever the capacitances we have used here. Okay, so if capacitance is low, RC time constant will be low, and if the RC time constant is low, the charging and the discharging time constant will also be low. So if the charging and discharging is low, means the transition will be faster. So if I have to improve the transition, if I have to make the smallest means the transition time should be smaller. In that case, we have to reduce the RC time constant, and to reduce the RC time constant, we have to reduce the load capacitances. So we have to design our circuit in a such a way that the equivalent load capacitance to a circuit should be as small as possible. But in practical, this is not true that we can completely make it zero. So if we cannot make it completely zero, so there will be some finite capacitance, and if there is some finite capacitance, there will be some finite rise time in the fall time. And if there is some finite rise time in the fall time, we cannot avoid this short circuit current completely. Okay, so this short circuit current cannot be neglected. Okay, so that need to be considered, especially if we are scaling down the technology. Is there any doubt? I'm giving 1 minute time to think, because this is quite tricky and we need to interrelate between all the parameters. So just take 1 minute time and then thinking about this, and in case of any doubt, just ask me. Otherwise, we can move ahead with the third kind of power dissipation. Okay, so if there is no question, then I can move ahead with the third kind of component, leakage power component, power dissipation component, and that is the dynamic one. Okay, so dynamic power dissipation. And I told you the dynamic power is the function of the operating frequency, load capacitance, and the supply voltage and the activity factor. I just told you the activity factor completely depends on the what kind of the circuit we are using. Like if we have the inverter, then the transition will 50% transition will be there. So we are assuming that if the input pattern is 50%, like the duty cycle of the input is 50%, in that case I will also assume that the duty cycle of the output will also be 50%. Okay, duty cycle means the on time divided by total time period. Okay, so similarly, if we have the AND gate, OR gate, NOR gate, other gates, then this activity factor will be changed. And if activity factor will be changed, this dynamic power dissipation will also change. So this activity factor is one of the parameters which is responsible. We will see in the details how to calculate the activity factor of different circuits. So we will see. The second component is the operating frequency. Simply operating frequency means what? Per unit time, how much transition is there. If there is more transition, more short circuit power dissipation will be there, and if more short circuit power dissipation will be there, that will also contribute to the dynamic power dissipation. So that more transition will lead to more power dissipation. So this is how we can relate the frequency with the power dissipation. Okay, the third and very important thing is like the load capacitance. We just related the load capacitance with the short circuit power dissipation. Okay, so by controlling this load capacitance, we can change this transition time, and if we can change this transition time, we can control the dynamic power dissipation as well. Okay, so the dynamic power dissipation also depends on the load capacitances. Now a very important thing, which is the VDD, and VDD is the supply voltage, and the supply voltage, the power dissipation is the function of square law in terms of square, like VDD square. So if we are changing a voltage with a small value, the power dissipation will be changed with the big amount, right? So this is how the different parameter decides what will be the resultant power dissipation through a circuit. Okay, so because with increasing the technologies, with improving the functionality, we have more number of transitions inside the chip, and if there is more transition, more activity will be there, and if there is more activity, the resultant power dissipation will also be increased. So the important thing is, like if I am improving the performance inside the chip by embedding more number of functions, definitely that is benefit. Like we can operate more number of functions. But the problem is, like if we can operate more number of functions, more transition will be there, and the more transition will lead to more power dissipation, higher power dissipation through that circuit. Okay, there are certain more parameters which are responsible to increase the power dissipation, and those are temperature and other things that I will discuss in detail later on, just not now. Okay, so this is the thing. Now I think.
Sir,
Yeah, please.
alpha, how is it? I mean, so can you again tell that formula that
Alpha FCL VDD square. Yeah. Alpha is
no,
the activity
sir, means
factor.
I am asking the how is means the alpha term that you are saying something it is related that 50% on and off. So can you tell that again?
Okay, okay. So see, suppose I have an inverter, okay, and I'm just giving the input something like this, which you can see in the green color. Okay, so here if you see, the on time and off time is equal, okay, and it is something giving like a square wave pulse train. Okay, so if the pulse train is something like with the equal on time and off time, so you can say that the duty cycle of this waveform is the 50%, right? So on time is 50% and the total time is this one. So this is the total time and this is the on time. So this is how we calculate the duty cycle. So the activity factor, we can say 50% activity factor is there. There is a transition. Okay, and suppose we have a circuit something like that. Let us assume I am giving input something like this only, like a square wave, but we have designed that circuit in a such a way that that circuit is giving something the way output something like this. Okay, so if the output is something like this, what it means, the activity is not so here if you see the per unit time period, the activities are less. So if the activities are less, the transition will be less. The transition will be less means this activity factor will be reduced. Just like I explained in the previous class, like suppose I have some AND logic, okay, and I have two inputs like A and B, and and if we have two input AND logic, so it could be like 0 0 0 1 1 0 and 1 1. And if you see the output of this AND one, so the output will be like 1 0 0 and 0. Okay, so if you see, even though we have provided 0 0 to both the input, I will get output 0. Even though there is some change in one of the input, there will be no change in the output. In the third case, there will be no change in the output. In the fourth case, there will be change in the output. So even though we have four combinations, and out of four combinations, there is only one combination which is responsible to make the transition. So there is a 25% chance that the transition will be there. Okay, so if there is a less chance of the transition, so activity factor will be reduced. And if the activity factor will be reduced, so the power dissipation will also be reduced. So this activity factor completely depends on what kind of logic we have implemented and how many transition is there out of total number of possible combinations. You got the answer, Atha?
Yes, sir.
Any other
Just
doubt? No, you need to clear it. If any doubt, then you can ask.
Sir, so the alpha must have something to do with the transition, not with the on and off period of the output.
Yes, so it completely depends on whatever, like see, suppose I just took an example of two different circuits. One circuit is like an inverter and the second circuit is like a AND gate. Okay, so in inverter, we have the 50% probability that there will be changes. Okay, so 0 1 0 1 transition will always be there if I'm changing the input. And in case of AND gate, we have the possibility like the transition will be there when both the inputs are one. Okay, so suppose I am giving some bit. So yeah, so in summary, just we can say that if there is some transition at the output due to change in the input, then we can say there is some activity, and based on that activity, we can decide the activity factor. So activity factor is the function of whatever the circuit we have designed, and based on that, whatever output we are getting. Okay, so the output function decides the activity factor. You got this? Got the answer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So this was all about the dynamic power dissipation. Now let us move ahead. Yes, I will take this power dissipation in more detail so that I can introduce some more important terms, and that is really very important to understand the power dissipation in the circuit. But yeah, that will take 2 lectures. So later on we can do that. Yeah. So this is all about the trend. I just told you, like if we are reducing the size, if there is more transition, So more number of transition means the more activity will be there per unit area, and if more activity is there, the power dissipation will also be increased. So the power becomes one of the major concern, and that need to be reduced, and this is one of the research challenge to overcome the power dissipation issues in the integrated circuits. Okay, so this becomes a really serious problem, especially for the skilled technology or at the lower technologies. Okay, what are the other parameters which are responsible to increase the power? I will tell you in detail later on. Now let us talk about the power density. Power density is nothing but if I am talking about a total power per unit area. So yeah, power per unit area. So that is the power density. Okay. So suppose I am increasing the number of transistors per unit area. So I am increasing the number of transistors. What it means? More number of function I am implementing per unit area. If there is more number of functions that we are implementing per unit area, transition will be more transition will be there. So if more transition is there, what it means? The power density will also be increased. Okay, so the power density is directly related with the power dissipation, directly related with the activity factor, directly related with the number of transistors per unit area. Okay, so if I am increasing the number of transistors per unit area, definitely power density is also going to be increased. Okay, so this parameter is utilized to calculate the figure of merit for the circuit. So what the importance of power density, I will tell you in detail when I will talk about some CMOS circuits. Okay, so keep this thing in mind. The real importance of power density and other things I will discuss when I will explain the CMOS circuits. Okay, so yeah, the power density becomes one of the challenge and that need to be considered. Yeah, and this is completely increasing by, yeah, so if you see the power density of some of the processor like P6 is something like just like the temperature is just like a hot plate, and if further if you increase the temperature, the power density is equivalent to the rocket nozzle temperature. So this is really a serious concern that need to be considered. Okay, so yes, this one is very this slide is really very important, and that in this particular slide, what we have done. So till now, up to 2020, how many microprocessor has been fabricated? So they have collected the data based on the five important parameters. First important parameter, first important parameter is how many transistors are there in that processor. Second parameter was like single thread performance. The third parameter was like what was the frequency. Fourth parameter was what is the typical power dissipation of that microprocessor. And the fifth parameter was number of logical cores present in that microprocessor. So from 1970, when the IC was started fabricating, from there are n number of different processor has been fabricated with the different features, different properties, different activities, and different functionalities. But based on once they are fabricated, they have different kind of constraints like the number of transistor, number of threads, operating frequency, typical power, and the number of logical cores. Okay, so these all are the parameter, and this particular graph gives you the trend of the processor in different parameters. So if you see the first graph, which is in something like orange one, the number of transistors are linearly increasing, okay, by every year. There is no saturation, there is no flattening, nothing. Number of transistors are keep on increasing with advancement in the technology with the time. Okay, second thing is like the single thread performance. So the single thread performance means simply is the amount of work completed by some software that run as a single stream of the instructions. So how many work it can complete on once we are giving some instruction in a certain amount of time. So this is what we call it single thread performance. So single thread performance are keep on increasing, and might be somewhere it is flattening, but still it is increasing. Operating frequency, it was initially increasing with respect to time, but now it started flattening, means further we cannot improve the frequency. I just told you the frequency is not increasing the frequency is not just by to reduce the feature size. You have to maintain other parameters as well. So the operating frequency is something, it is maintained up to 10 to the power 3 megahertz, something like that. Okay. For high frequency applications, for RF applications, the concept of IC designing is something different. You need to consider some resistive effect, capacitive effect, loading, some inductive effects, and that you can utilize those processors for the RF applications. So for low frequency applications, high frequency applications, the design perspectives are different. Okay. For normal, if you see, the frequencies are something like flattening after a certain amount of after 2010, something like that. Okay. Similarly, if you talk about the power dissipation, as I told you, if there is more transistor, more number of transistors, in that case, the power dissipation is going to be increased. But if the power dissipation, if we are not controlling the power dissipation, it is quite difficult to maintain the things. Okay. So we need to apply some concept so that we can reduce the power dissipation. So there are several power reduction techniques that has been implemented on the ICs while fabricating the ICs, so that the power dissipation cannot increase to the very high value. Okay, so that has been maintained. If you see here, the maximum power dissipation through the IC is something like 10 to the power 2 watt. Okay, or something like 100 watts. Okay, so this much of watt of power is possible. But if the trend of power dissipation is something like the same like the number of transistors, so it can move something like this. Okay, so if you see here, the power dissipation is 10 to the power 6, and this much of power is not possible, especially like handheld devices like mobile. So on mobile, 10 to the power 6 watt of power is not possible. So in just a fraction of a second, your battery will be die. Okay, so you need to apply some mechanism, some power reduction techniques to control the power dissipation in the ICs, in the microprocessor. So it is not necessary that we need to follow the same trend what the number of transistors are following. Okay, so this was the thing. Next and very important thing is like number of logical cores. So number of cores, if I am increasing the number of cores, so the number of functions can also be increased. So like you know that what is the meaning of core. So with the advancement in the technology, with advancement in the different features, the number of cores are also going to be increased, and that improve the functionality of the microprocessor. So these are the 5 very important trends, parameters that are considered while designing any microprocessor. Okay, so these things you can compare and you can see. Okay, so here the number of transistors are doubled by every 18 months. The operating frequency is doubling by every 2 years, but nowadays it becomes a saturation. So this particular trend was the perfectly working before 2010 or something like that. But after that, it becomes a saturation. So the frequency is not increasing as per the trend. Okay, and for higher frequency might be you need to utilize or you need to use some other kind of concept like RFIC designing. Okay, so RFIC designing concept is something different than the normal one, and you need to use that one if you want to increase the operating frequency further. Okay, and similarly the power dissipation is doubling by every 2 years. So but now after applying the power reduction mechanism in while designing the IC, definitely we can also control the total power dissipation in the IC or in the microprocessor. Okay, so this was the trend. Now if you see, yeah, this particular slide, so I will take 3 more minutes and then I will wind up the session. So this particular slide indicates like the Intel processor in 2019 or 2018 they have fabricated 10 nanometer IC, and the number of transistor in the Intel processor was 100 million transistor per millimeter square. Now you can assume how many transistors we have per millimeter square. Okay, so if there is more transistor, more number of functions can be implemented. Okay, so this is the trend from the Intel processor. Okay, so yeah, so if you see the market or the requirement of the semiconductor industry, so if you see with the time every year the sales in the electronic gadget or the processor is increasing day by day. So in 2020, it was around 1516 million units sale of electronic processors. Okay, so there is a huge demand in the industry, like in the semiconductor industry, and they always need an expert or always need a manpower in the semiconductor who can help in the production in other places. And the major part is something like RF signal, RF power amplifier, power management, anything. So these all are the modules where the people are working to make it perfectly. Yes, I was just, yeah, not only the mobile phone, there are certain other things which need to be included while considering the microprocessor or the processor or the semiconductor industry. So there are n number of devices nearby you which run with the electronic processors only. Okay, and if the number of equipments are increasing around us day by day, so the requirement of semiconductor industry is always be increasing. Okay, so this is the important thing that need to be considered. Yes, I was saying like different kind of technologies that need to be considered. Okay, so initially the first the processor which was fabricated with the MOSFET technology, but the future becomes like the next. So still, if you want to improve the performances, we can use this FinFET technology. So the FinFET technology have the better controllability in the leakage power. So the power optimization is possible with the FinFET one. Okay. The next kind of technology could be like fully depleted SOI structure. So by using SOI structure, you can make the devices hardened to the high energy particles. So the interference can be overcome. Okay. So there are different kind of device structure which are implemented day by day. So currently we are using something like vertical nanowire based devices are fabricating in the chip, but the future could be like 3D IC. Okay, monolithic 3D IC could be the future where you can stack the number of layers. So per unit area size can all further be reduced. Okay, so these are the different technologies. Yeah, we will discuss it later on. Yes, I will take two more slides and I will finish it off. If you see here, this is the global market, global semiconductor market. So the most of the part, this is the with the day by day, with the year by year, what are the different components which are what are the share of different components? Like see if here, the most of the share is considered in the memory here, this pink one. Every year, the maximum share is of the memory and this special purpose logics only. So out of 100, if you see, the maximum share is going for the memory. So memory becomes one of the prime concern for the R&D. So if you can have a better memory to store the data, there is some huge scope in this particular domain to do the research. There could be some other like you can also consider some analog block, digital block, microprocessor unit, something like that. But the major portion is covered by the memory only. One more key term that you should know is like the near future, it is coming like in-memory computing. Okay, in-memory computing means what? If you see, the previously we had some processor. That processor is used to process the unit, process the whatever the data you have. And after processing, you need some memory element where you can store the data. But nowadays, what the people are doing, instead of there is a separate processing unit and the separate memory element, what they are using, the memory itself can act as a processing unit. And this kind of the technology is known as in-memory computing. And this is the future of nowadays, the in-memory computing becomes the future. Okay, and that need to be considered. Okay, so let me quickly finish these things. I will discuss about the in-memory computing and other things in the later classes. Yeah, here if you see, if you talk about the IoT and the cyber physical system industries, in that case, the maximum part is covered by the semiconductor hardware, then sensor, then semiconductor software. So in IoT and the cyber physical system, if you see here, the maximum portion is covered by the semiconductor hardware itself. So for the IoT applications, for the cyber physical system applications, everywhere the semiconductor is a need. Okay, the need of semiconductor is there, and there is a huge portion of semiconductor devices. Okay, and if the huge portion of semiconductor devices is there, there is a requirement of the manpower, and trained people are always need in the semiconductor industry. Okay, Next, the last slide, which is like, if we talk about the different foundries, so as of now, the most of the ICs are fabricating with this particular thing. Like the by 2025, the most of the ICs will be fabricated by 7 nanometer technology. But nowadays, in 2021, this much of portion is covering by the 7 nanometer technology. So this is the trend for the different technology nodes and the portion of or number of what is the market of all the technologies. Okay, the important thing is all the foundries cannot sustain all the technology nodes. They must have the proper infrastructure. So if you are talking about 7 nanometer, 5 nanometer, Intel and the TSMC are the potential candidate in this way. So they are in competition. They are fabricating the chip by considering 7 nanometer. But still, if you see here, the lower technology has a huge portion in the semiconductor industry. Okay, and the last slide is like the cost with scaling down the technology is reducing, and if the cost is reducing, the total cost of the electronic gadget will also reduce. So initially the cost of 90 nanometer IC was around $4.1, okay, something like that. So but for the 7 nanometer technology node, the cost is very less. So if the cost is reducing, the cost of electronic gadget will also reduce. Okay, and this is the reason why people are considering for the lower technology, and again they are doing research for the lower technology further. Okay, so this is all about the briefing class, and thank you so much for attending the classes, and I hope from the next week we will start the main course, and I am hoping that you enjoyed the briefing lectures and might be you got some information related to the semiconductor industry and the need of the hour. Okay, so see you on Monday. Thank you so much.